want to talk about, none of this is planned, just so people know, but I want to talk about this. I want to talk, by the time this video comes out, yet last week we had Colin Wright on the show. And, I actually just finished editing that entire episode before we recorded tonight. And I want to talk through like how we think that went, because I kind of feel like we walked into it and I was really like there to like, and y'all know me, I don't have a maximalist position on kids transitioning, but I really wanted an answer on some things like how he valued like, cis lives that may regret stuff versus trans lives. And I really noticed as I was editing the episode, like I felt like I was the main one kind of asking him those hard questions. So do y'all like agree with his political project? Were you afraid to disagree with him? Like what was kind of the vibe like with that?
Mixed feelings from my point of view, because I saw where Colin was coming from. I didn't feel like he was just fighting the element of kids transitioning like just for the sake of it. Like he seemed like he had a lot of good data and like points that he was making, but I also kind of saw the points you were making, Brie, and it was like it's so tough because it's like, how do you help keep a gateway open for the right kids? Like that was really the issue, was like it was just in how do you identify them, and then how do you like do it in a way, how do you allow them the space to transition that doesn't push them down the road, that inertia element, like the inertia of transition when it's not maybe right for them, versus the kids that are actually going to come through and be like, yeah, this was totally right for me. And it was like we were talking at that, but it's tough to get at the essence of that. And I feel like Taff and Kelly both have experiences that go into that. And it's like, how do we know like who is really the right person for medical transition when they're, under 18?
I mean, we still don't know, even with me and Taff here. Who knows? What if one of us regrets our transition in like 20 years? I mean, I don't think that's going to happen.
As long as you're alive. I mean, you could always say that.
I definitely regret it some days. I mean, so Brianna, I think you did something that's like so valuable on that podcast, which is really seriously challenging the guest. And I also think that it's so easy to just agree. And it's also really easy to just like signal like, I'm critical of the trans movement and have that be your only message. It's really hard to like inject any kind of nuance. And, in that conversation, I do think you are like mostly the one who's like arguing with Colin. And I also have my disagreements with Colin. Like I think fundamentally agree with you, which is that like I think there probably should be a window for people to transition under 18, and that should be done under the guidance of medical experts, and probably should be limited to a certain type of person who we think is going to be a good candidate for transition. And I would have loved to like had more like back and forth with Colin about that, but I think just the nature of the show, like it's hard to have like a three-way debate where like there's three different positions. And so I was okay. Like I sort of backed away from my position and took the role of maybe being like, oh, I agree with you, Brianna, here, or I agree with you, Colin, here. And I think that's just the nature of the show. But at the end of the day, I think when people watch that, they see that go live, they're going to appreciate your viewpoint. Even if it's like a minority, they're going to see that as really courageous. And, I think we're probably going to get more shit for it. So
really, I think it's going to be the other. I can see already what the TERFs are going to say. Like, look at Brianna, like asking these hard questions. So male coded.
Let's get back to what you said before, where you were like, you made that statement about how you always thought that if you had transitioned before you were an adult, that would have fixed like all your problems. But in talking with Kelly and Taff, it's like you realize that may not be the case. Because it's mixed vibes. And it's like, where does the confidence in the decision to transition come from? That's like what I always wonder.
Yeah. Well, this is something I've thought a lot about, like from editing this. And I'm saying this to both of you, but there's a reason every single older trans woman like regrets they didn't have your experiences. Because I think both of y'all are blissfully unaware of where the story goes if you're forced to keep repressing, and it's not anywhere good. And I think I'm really happy that you avoided that damage, but also in editing the show, I realized like it's stunning to me, Taff, to hear you say that, because I think for me it was so hard earned, like my role, that I almost feel like I value it, like in a way that you can't get any other way, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I say this in the show too, but like I think I'm conscious of the fact that my experience is kind of different. I mean,
Yeah.
every time I bring up my perspectives on my own transition publicly, pretty much every trans woman disagrees with me, right? So it's not like it's just you and me, Brianna. I think it's
Sure,
like
sure.
every other trans woman and me. We're like, I think I'm definitely in the minority where I'm like, you know, I look at the total, you know, improvement in mental health that I've had, and I think that like maybe there is some, but it's like kind of minor. And I'm like, is that worth, you know, everything I've given up for it? I sometimes do this calculus,
Yeah.
and in times when I'm feeling really down, I do that calculus and I think it was not worth it. And in times when I'm feeling really good, I think like, oh yeah, it's great that I can wear women's clothing. But I think that it's just I'm unique in the sense that like for me it was less of an intense, you know, just like outright positive thing. So yeah,
Yeah.
I say that in the show, and I definitely don't like want to speak for trans women in general when I say that.
Sure. And to be clear, I totally respect that viewpoint, right?
Mhm.
Like it's your own life, make up your own assessment about it. I don't want to be that
Yeah.
trans woman telling you you're wrong, because you're my friend and you can make
I
your own
appreciate that.
assessment about your experiences.
Yeah, I know. I love that. And like, you know, I sometimes wonder too, like, what would life have been like if I had transitioned younger? And I say younger because it's just like, I guess I'm considered sort of young transitioner, depending on how you look at it. I mean, if you're before 30, I guess it's sort of younger.
Yeah, we
But
did it at the same age.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So then, yeah, it's like, so, I mean, but for me, like, that's to answer the question I sort of posed earlier, because I think about this a good bit, like, where does the confidence come from? It came from the fact that I looked at the most critical narratives of transition and I was like, I still want this. And it was because my life was going so downhill on the precipice of gender dysphoria. And it's like, it took that progression though to realize that I needed this. Like if I had done it sooner, I would have been left wondering what would my life been like in terms of the intensity of gender dysphoria, right? Like that was sort of the theme I saw with you all too. And it was like, it had me thinking a little bit. I'm like, maybe there is some merit to like the age of 18 or something, you know, to transition. But then I also think about the issue of masculinization and what testosterone does. And it's like, what's the sweet spot? Where is that like moment for the people that are really going to benefit from this? And it's more questions. Like, oh, can't get away from it.
I mean, I think it's hard to, I wonder about this a lot. Like I have a toughness that just other people don't have, or a will at stuff. And I tend to like just have an initiative to start things up. Like I'm a really good project manager, and it's hard for me not to admit that those are all skills that started like when I was still living as a, you know, man at 18. So I often I wonder how much of what makes me a leader like comes from me and how much comes from the experience, the difficult experiences of being trans. Because like you two are not the only people I know that transitioned as children. And I've just never met anyone with that kind of I don't know. I almost think the trauma can make you stronger in some ways, if that makes sense. I hope that's not belittling.
No, I think that's true. I mean, we spoke about Jonathan Haidt earlier.
Yeah,
one of the things that he really talks about, exactly, is that like sometimes embracing those hard things is really important. And if you always shy away from them, that can be totally destructive. So yeah, I mean, I think that you can get like a silver lining in all of it. But I do think that like strictly speaking, it would be better for me if I had transitioned earlier. I mean, like, I think everyone feels this way, right? Like, usually when you transition earlier, like, you do get benefits from that. And like, I dealt with a lot of struggles feeling like socially ostracized in high school. And I think about like if I had transitioned in middle school and then like, moved counties or whatever, and just like gone to high school, like totally, no one knowing that I'm trans, maybe that would have been like really important for socialization.
Yeah.
And like maybe a lot of the negatives that I experienced as a result of transition are not like innate to transitioning young, but in fact like a result of kind of the bigotry that I faced.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, it's very hard for me to like make an obvious pronouncement like the transitioning at this age is good. I think what's important is that that I can just be like totally raw and authentic and express all of my experiences and let people work through them, because people can compare that to Brianna's experience or Skylar's or Kelly's. And it's in the synthesis of all of this that you actually get good transition like advice, and you learn things. So I just think at the end of the day, the important thing more than anything else is that we all feel comfortable to lay bare our experiences and just work through them. And I feel so comfortable with you guys doing that. So I really appreciate it. Yeah.
Feel the same way.
Same. Yeah. What about you, Kelly? What do you think?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I don't know what like the right age for anyone to transition is. I think Brie was onto something like a week ago when she said that, it's a lot easier for female to males to transition after 18. So I just think maybe the answer is holding off all female to males until they're legal adults, and then
I think so.
Just making it so F to M or M to Fs only get diagnosed through qualified psychiatrists, like I've said in the past. But I don't even know what the answer is, because a psychiatrist also told me within like less than 6 months that it was good to transition. So I don't even know anymore. But
so as I've been editing the show, you tell that story over and over. Like, what was so bad about her? Did you just not respect her as a clinician? Did you feel like she just wasn't qualified?
Well, no,
what were you looking for from there that you didn't get?
It was a psychiatrist and a therapist I was seeing simultaneously. My psychiatrist was a man, my therapist was a woman, and both of them I was able to get the pass for HRT within 6 months. I don't know what I was looking for. I just feel like it was kind of like quick. I don't know. I don't know. This is just such a weird topic for me. I feel like I'm in a very negative headspace at the moment. So like, I don't.
Do you feel like resistance or like a little bit of, I don't know, gentle challenging is the right word, but like more probing or questioning? Would that have made you feel more like satisfied by the therapeutic process? I'm just curious. Like,
I really don't know. I wish I had like an answer for you. Like, I guess like just more time or more like evaluation, but maybe they did all the evaluating that they needed to. I guess I don't like regret my transition. I just kind of wish I was born a girl, because I just kind of feel like this shit just in general.
I feel that to my bones. But I also know if I'd just been born a girl, I'd be another racist redneck in Mississippi, probably married to a banker, living in a house there, whose entire life would be about going to church and who was dating who on the local high school football team, and then I'd go there every Friday with all the Mississippians, and just that would be my life. And I'm not trying to be like, it's really hard. I think I hope this doesn't sound arrogant, but I've objectively had an interesting life and an interesting career. And, it's hard to not argue that this experience like is a really, really big part of them. So it's hard for me to understand like where I begin and where this thing that nearly killed me like integrates with that. Like maybe I'm just maybe this is just who I am. I don't know.
Yeah. You really, you have had an incredible career. I do think about that as well in my own life, because I've benefited in so many ways from transition, just like sort of in ancillary ways, right? Like not directly, but posting sexy pictures online. I think the novelty of the fact that I was trans really played into that. And like, I see like beautiful, cisgender women, they like struggle to take off in any way as, posting sexy pictures. But like, I was able to get a lot of attention, despite, just sort of being like an awkward, gangly teenager. And that benefited me a lot. So I don't know. I've benefited in some ways and certainly grown a lot from the experience.
A really good friend of mine is Cliff Blazinski, the guy that made Gears of War, just a fantastic guy. And I see his wife, Lauren, who's truly one of the most beautiful women you will ever see in your entire life. And he was talking about like her struggles to form a career on TikTok. And again, beyond beautiful, beyond interesting, married to someone very famous, lovely personality. Like Lauren, I could not say a bad sentence about her. So I hear what you're saying about there being certain advantages, but at the same time, like there is a melancholy to all four of us that, I really love spending time with you guys because I feel like the value of the show is I get to hang with like 3 people that understand that every single week.
Yeah,
totally.
Yeah. I
and also like
that.
understand some of the darker aspects too, and like are willing to discuss that because I don't know, the trans community, it can really enforce a kind of like social code on you. Like you have to believe certain things in order to like interact with a lot of trans people, and that is destructive and toxic in its own way. So I really appreciate hanging out with you guys. And like Kelly, I just like, you say you're like in a bad headspace right now. I want to be like there to support you because I feel like I just know that place so well. And I know what it's like to be attacked on Twitter and to just feel horrible about yourself. So yeah. I don't know. I want to be there.
I appreciate it. But it's like, I don't know. There's nothing to really like be there for. It just kind of is what it is.
How do you feel about it? Like, what's your headspace like right now? What thoughts are going through your head?
I don't know. I just kind of, I don't know. To me, transition was always about like being like just pretty and like having men like be attracted to me. And I feel like that sounds really bad. But
it's real. That's how it is.
Yeah, it's what you think. Yeah.
And then you just kind of get to the point where like you are like in a relationship and you feel like you're in your forever relationship, and it, and then it just kind of makes you realize you can't have like children, and that's not really like a future for you, and it makes you kind of just like question, wow, so my life isn't about like getting people to be attracted to me anymore outside of like the one, and it's not about family, and it's kind of just, I don't know. And then like, I think you guys have much more better mental health than me just because you have like real jobs and you have like, I don't know, you go out and interact in the real world. I feel like for me, I'm kind of just like trapped in the castle or like my shitty little house. And I just deal with like, I don't know, just negative shit all day. I feel like I'm addicted to Twitter and social media. And I just feel like my life is about creating like porn and like, I don't know, just like,
Kelly.
I'm glad I have this and like I enjoy doing this, but it just, I don't know, even just when we like talk about things, like when we had like, our last guest on or whenever we had guests on, I just feel like everyone is very like much smarter than me and is much more involved in politics than I am. And I feel like somehow I've like in between like my OnlyFans and stuff, I've gotten myself involved in like this political mess when I really don't like know anything about what I'm talking about. And I just feel like I'm like retarded or like stupid. And like, I don't know. I just don't really feel like I contribute that much. And I don't even feel like as I'm getting older, I just don't even feel like I have as much sex appeal as I once did. And it's just, and then like Twitter just makes me more aware of like insecurities that I've never even like thought about before. And it just, I don't know, everything just feels like kind of empty.
Yeah, I've been there like 100%. And I think I had this realization. I started to look like a lot older when I turned like 21, 22. And suddenly I had bags under my eyes and like my face was sagging. And I could see it like in the numbers too. And that's a really hard thing about OnlyFans is that, you know, I had this numerical count of like how valuable I was to the world. And it was tied to my appearance. And that appearance was like deteriorating in some way that like people notice, right? And like I still think that like I can be beautiful, and I think I'll be beautiful into like my 40s. I think I'll be so milfy and da da da. But like it's real that like guys like a certain look, right? And like so a lot of guys will like kind of a younger look. And maybe I have to wait like 15 years before I like age into the MILF category, and then like I get a different set of guys. But I feel like in my childhood, I never really like developed that sense of like self-confidence or stable identity even really. And so I've really struggled to value myself beyond how other people value me. So yeah, I don't know. I just feel like I relate a lot, and I don't want to like tell too much of my story because I'm like, I want to just hone in on your feelings. But just know that like I super relate on everything that you're saying. It feels like something that I have lived 100%.
Yeah.
I feel like it's well, okay, I want to go one at a time. So first of all, like I want to bring some mom energy and say, like Kelly, the way you see yourself is just it's bullshit.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. It's just not true.
It's not
really well, what is true is you need to make different decisions. And the decisions you make right now in your 20s are going to affect what you're doing in your 30s and your 40s. And, you know, I do strongly encourage you to develop things outside of your looks to do a career with. Like, you know, the show we're doing right now has a lot of post-production on it. Work on the networking with me. Get to know my really good friend Pixie. Like her entire job is about networking with content creators. She's brilliant at it. Right. So, I mean, you know, there's stuff you do need to be doing. And, you know, again, mom energy, you need to get the courage to leave your house more. Like you just do. So there's some stuff inside of you that's holding you back, but never doubt that you've got more worth than 99% of people out there. Kelly, genuinely, I know so many people. You are hardly the only hot trans girl I know. And I invited you onto this project because I see something in you with a ton of value. And I can see that clearly. Sky, I'm sure you can see it. Taff, I'm sure you can see it. So like we see this clearly. It's just that you can't. So, like, you know, that's how I feel. Yeah, Taff, as far as I feel like there's such a lie about getting older that is told to young women. And I understand this because I remember being in my 20s and looking at women in their 30s and going, oh my God, I've only got this much time left. I'm so screwed if I don't do that. And then you get to 30 and you're looking, you're like, oh, these women are actually beautiful. I'm fine. I know that like gender criticals are going to look at this, interpret this as a diss against cis women, but I don't mean this. Like, you are going to value stuff as you get older that most cis women just are not. You're going to be fit. You're going to be doing makeup. You're going to be doing hair. And there are tons of men that are most attracted to women in their 30s and 40s. I just went to LA and spent a few days there. I must have had 10 guys try to pick me up. And I'm not even pretty. So, like, there's
that might say otherwise, though. That's a pretty good indication.
Well, I'm not, but I'm saying that there's a marketplace no matter where you are. It's not that you have to compare yourself to cis women in your 20s. It's that you just have to look good for your age cohort, and that's going to be a lot easier. I think it's actually easier for trans girls as we get older because we're so like skinny
Because
and with
people
the
give
fat
up on
stuff.
it.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Well,
Yeah.
that's a great point. And I mean, like, you're so like inspirational to me on this. Just because I like, yes, okay. You like don't believe this when I say this, but like I see you posting like pictures on Twitter and like you've gotten like FFS and like you're posting these photos and you look gorgeous and you're like thriving and like you clearly like take pride in your appearance. And I think that I had this experience, you know, a few years ago where like I realized that I was doing a certain sort of like thing in terms of like catering towards male attraction. That like I was leaning on my youth, I guess,
Yeah.
right? And like there's a way in which you can lean on your youth and it's like very effective to getting men's attention. And I just realized that I couldn't lean on that anymore. And that was like kind of scary for me. But I think you're so right in the sense that like that doesn't necessarily make you like unattractive. It just
Yeah.
means that like you develop other sources of beauty and you become like the most beautiful version of yourself at any age as soon as you're
100%.
able to do that. So
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. It really resonates with me what you're saying. And yeah, as much as you get all like bashful and like don't want to accept it, like you really are an inspiration in this way to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it helps that, you know, I was not pretty for so long. And, you know, like it's been a lot of FFS to get to where I am today. And that took a lot of work. But so I think it kind of forced me to develop other things of value for society to value me for, which I think has been good for my career. But I look, just never discount like the fact that we like, that you can talk video games, like hand to God, there was a gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous man that was at the Hilton where I was staying at. He came up in a like Porsche 992. And I just happened to mention it to him. And I understand stuff about Porsche. And this man in a suit who's just like he's sitting there and is like 20 out of 10 attracted to me just because I'm the girl that understands Porsche. So
yeah.
do you know what I mean? Like what you just got to work with what you've got, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and that's what I would say too to like Kelly. Cuz like you can like find so many sources of value in your life that go so far beyond either like, you know, men being attracted to you or even like how you feel about yourself or, you know, whether or not you're starting a family. And I really believe that like any of us can find that. And like you will be okay, as like scary and like dark as it is. And I've been there. I do think you are loved. You are loved
Yeah.
deeply by us, by your boyfriend.
Yeah.
You're loved by so many people and it's gonna be okay. Like
Yeah.
you're going to feel better and it might be a
Yeah.
week or a month or a year, but you will develop those things you really feel pride in that go so far beyond, you know, what's really playing in your head right now. So I believe in you.
Yeah,
for
and
sure.
I just want to say like something that helps me is whenever I'm feeling down or I'm not like I'm in a low point, like I just think about I need to set goals. I need to put my mind and my energy towards something other than myself. See, that's what like allows you to keep into that space is that you're not, you know, it just means like you're too idle, you're not doing enough. And this is like I'm talking about myself here, like this is my own reflection. And I'll realize like I need to set goals and I need to be working towards those goals because I need to have measurements of progress to help me through those times because you're not always going to feel good and you're not always going to feel bad. It'll change week by week or day by day. And it's better to have anchor points. And honestly, this is part of why I believe in my faith, actually. Like God for me and spirituality fills this space. It helps keep me grounded in like, I hate saying like cheesy tradition, but it's like, there's a reason why religious people are religious. And it's not just because it's like, I don't know what they're programmed to think or it's what their community thinks. It provides a source of truth, a source of like purpose in their life. And for me, that's always been something that like I've sort of struggled with a little bit. but I've come back to it and seeing like there is something powerful in having like in just believing in something more than yourself.
Yeah.
And that's like really anchored me. So I don't know like if that helps at all. Hopefully like it's just an option. It's just I'm trying to give you options. That's the goal.
I think it's good to have meaning. Oh, go ahead, Kelly. Sorry.
Yeah.
No, I was just saying, like, I hear you on like the faith thing. Like sometimes I've like thought about like taking up religion or just like looking into Christianity, which is what like my mom like grew up teaching us, just as like a way to like you said, like believe in something like greater than yourself, or just like find like a sense of purpose that's outside of you.
Mm-hmm.
So can I ask a really, I feel like this is kind of a little melancholy here. Can I ask a really, this is a real question for all of y'all. So I've talked to you about how I did psychedelics last year, a whole bunch of it. It was really, really helpful for my trauma. And it really changed my personality. It's not a mistake that a lot of the arc I'm on right now is after I did that, because it did make me feel very fearless about what I want to do. But one of the things that clinical ketamine does is you're sitting there and tripping and you're going into the K-hole, as I call it, and you really feel yourself stripped away. All these stories about yourself that you tell, all of it, it just gets taken apart one by one, and you're just staring there at the core of yourself. And this is so dark, but it's also really beautiful. That what I found at the core of myself repeatedly when I did that was this desire to be a woman. Like that fundamental thing that I want and cannot have, that's the essence of what I am. And I think that like leads to a melancholy and a pain that never leaves me ever. And, as I've like come to this realization that transitioning early would not have cured that. Like, do y'all feel that too? Like this pain inside of you of always wanting to be something that you can never become?
Totally. Yeah. Like I mean, I feel like we're kind of just giving the TERFs what we want or what they want. But like, I mean, I feel like we all kind of know that regardless of like how much we transition or how much we pass, like we'll quote unquote never be a real woman, which
it's true. It's true.
Never be female.
Yeah, I that's so tricky for me because, well, one, I've never had a trip into the K-hole or whatever you describe. Like, no, but like, I mean, my transition was sort of making peace with that. Like, I felt like, I kind of reconciled with the fact that there's a side of me that longs for feminine expression, but it goes beyond just expression. It's like, I want to embody as feminine of myself as I possibly can. And I guess like, it came from viewing transition as like a gift rather than something that like I was deserved, that sort of allowed me the space of like, wow, I get to do this. Like, thank God I'm born in like the 2000s and I'm not born in like the 1800s. Like, this would be so bad. Like, I guess, I don't know. It's a different perspective for sure. But it's like, I just think of all the time periods where this wouldn't have been possible to transition. And I'm like perpetually grateful that I could, but like, I guess through like, I don't know. It's like, I'm happy. Like, I'm so happy with who I get to be, that the longing for it was all before transition for me. Like now that I've transitioned, it's like, I'm so happy. And like, I don't know. I feel like that's not always a common experience. And maybe it has to do with the fact that gender dysphoria was so constant for me and so long. Cause like, I feel like I had been experiencing that since, I don't know, it got really bad when I was like 22. So that was like 3 years before I actually did the medical transition. But like before that, there were like spurts and like definitely periods of time where it was really a problem for me. And it just, my resolution was always like, it'll go away if I ignore it or if I just pretend it doesn't exist. And it's like, that doesn't work. Like by the time, like when I was like in my upper 20s and I was leaving college, I was like, all right, you know what? Like I need to face this head on because I need to move on with my freaking life. And this is like a problem. And it was it really got to me in my first job. And it was like, I was having trouble at work. I was having disruptions in my friendships. And it was like, I need to move forward. And because that worked, and it's like, it would be amazing if I could be a real woman. I admit that. But I've made peace with the fact that I can't be. And it's like, that's where like, I don't want to ramble on, but I'm just trying to make the point that like, for me, transition was coming to grips and accepting the fact that I won't ever be a real woman, but at least I can be a feminized male
100%.
that can pass through society as a woman to the people that are willing to extend that grace. Like,
I mean, I 100% get that, Sky, obviously.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes it so much better. What I'm saying, though, is I'm like, 15 years further into the book than you are? And like, there is a sadness that is just, and maybe it's just our personalities are different, but there's a melancholy there and a pain that just does not go away. And Kelly, I sense that in you to a certain extent. Taff, I think I sense that there with you sometimes, and unless I'm imagining that. So I don't know. I think this is kind of the nature of the beast, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard. I'm sorry. I feel like I don't like have like the right things to say.
Say what's
it's very hard to find the right words. Yeah. But I do want to like
contest, of like, oh, who can like dress up the best, and when I say like dress up, it's like who can get the most surgeries, go to the best surgeon to look the most like a real woman. And it's just like I get like so deep in thought into that, because it's just like, I mean, I understand transition is a part of it, and that includes surgery, but it's like, at what point do like we just learn to like accept ourselves as we are and just like have self-love? And I understand like cis women deal with that too, but it's just, I don't know. It's
worse for us. I think it's worse for us.
If you see a picture of how you used to look, that always does it for me. Like, I mean, I'm just being honest. Like, that's all I got to do is see, oh, that's who I used to be. Whoa. Okay. Yay. Like, that's not me today. Like, okay. I know I'm weird. Like, it's fine.
No. I 100% understand what you're talking about. I guess, but there is a challenge of making peace with things like that you can't change. Like, I cannot change how tall I am. I just want to die. Like, it was killing me today. Like, I'm over at Legacy Place in Dedham, and great. I just have my hair done and all of that. And like, all I can think about is how tall I am, which I just hate. There's nothing I can do about that. Life has to go on. And to a certain extent, like, we have to make peace with parts of this, and it's difficult. It's kind of our life mission.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's a way in which you can sort of feel like the closer you get, the further your goal is.
Ooh.
And what Skylar's talking about, like looking back at where you've come from, maybe you've been summiting the mountain thus far. And as you get closer and closer to the peak, it gets steeper and steeper, and you're craning your neck, and like, the top of the mountain is like disappearing into a point in front of you. But like, if you look back, you can be like, oh, wow, I've made so much progress, and this is incredible. And I think that you can sort of choose to love like where you're at, or you can like agonize about the fact that you might never get to the very top of the peak. And either way, I think it has to do with where you direct your sense of meaning or value.
Yeah.
And
yeah, that's good.
I mean, I think it's interesting that you're talking about like ketamine and how it like strips everything away.
Mm-hmm.
And when you like stripped everything away, you saw like something within you was like pointing towards femininity or like womanhood, and ultimately like finding a lack of it within yourself, right?
Well, not finding a lack of it inside myself. It was that desire to transition is what I am, right?
Okay.
That is the fundamental, basic building block of me.
Yeah. Okay, but yeah, I mean that it begs so many questions because I guess what we're getting at is that like
Yeah.
this desire can express itself healthily or unhealthily, and one of the ways for it to express itself unhealthily is this desire to always to never be at rest, to never take satisfaction in where you are, and to be always like chasing more and more, ever more impossible goals. And that you can really like torture yourself with that kind of goals. But also, I think that like you can take a lot of joy in the actual things you've achieved. This sounds kind of obvious or cliche, but like Brianna, you're talking about how you are so happy with the fact that you have been able to maintain a level of appearance, you know, as you've aged, and you've aged beautifully, and you see the fruits of that with like these guys who are hitting on you. That is really like an incredible testament to how far you've come and all the good things you've been able to create in your life by cultivating femininity. And so like I guess I try to focus on that. Like, yeah, I'll never be a woman, but now I'm in a world where I feel comfortable putting on like, I don't know, silly little like strawberry earrings and like a dress. And like that feels and I would find those things cute and desirable if I was a man. Because that's just like part of me. I just like those things. And I think it's good to be like, okay, I'm doing something I like. That's cool. So I don't know. I guess that's how I see it.
There is a cost to that I found before transition. Maybe you found this too, Sky. I just have like relationships with girls, and I would think things like exactly like that. Oh my God, the strawberry earrings are so cute. I love those, right? It wouldn't be just that I wanted to wear them. It would be that I wanted to be able to communicate stuff like that, right? And the fact that I get to have those relationships now, like it will never stop being meaningful to me. Like there's something I treasure in a way that I know I could pass 1,000 cis chicks on the street and they would just completely take it for granted. They don't understand. They don't understand what it's like to be kept from this stuff. So
hard one for sure.
Yeah, it's so interesting because I don't know. Like I feel like part of my transition was accepting that side of myself, but I wasn't satisfied with like because I did it in increments. So there was a long phase where like that just led to this perception where I was a gay man. And like that was fine, but it wasn't the target of my problem. Like that wasn't the essence of my gender dysphoria. I wanted to like, for lack of better terms, have the body of a female version of myself as much as possible. Like that was what really comprised the essence of dysphoria. Because I don't want to confuse the stereotypes for like otherwise, gay men that are able to just be like, that's me and that's fine, because I believe in that too. But it's just like in other words, society should tolerate gender nonconformity. It's just that there's going to be a subset that are going to have a problem of a cognitive dissonance with the body they have, and it's going to persist beyond those things. And those are the candidates for transition. And it's like the goal is just how to identify those people without like encouraging it too much or without like not allowing it. It's like there's a sweet spot, and that's where like the tug of war always is. I don't know. That's just me.
This is, it's so interesting, Skies. I've gotten to know you. Like, I feel so many similarities with your story, but I almost feel like the beast we're dealing with is fundamentally different in some way. I don't know. It's very, I haven't put my finger on it totally yet, but I think I will as we keep shooting the show.
You seem
I mean,
you seem like happier. I don't know.
I
feel like your soul, it's almost like you don't experience sadness.
What, me?
Which I'm kind of like jealous.
Oh my gosh. No. Yeah. Well, it's all for my 12 cats. I mean, let's be real.
Okay, but that's a great point. Like you have these 12 cats. That's a huge source of meaning in your life that like transcends transition.
They're my babies. But like a lot of it too is the decision-making process and like not embracing transition as a pathway. I hate saying that, but it's like I put the brakes and the resistance on myself because I didn't trust therapy to do it for me. Exactly what Kelly was sort of saying with like 6 months. And she's like, well, I don't know. Was that good therapy? And it's like, I mean, I was a little bit longer, but it wasn't like, but before I ever went to the clinics, I was challenging myself from the beginning. And it's like, and that's why I went and I, banked my sperm, and I'm hopeful to have children. Like that's part of my roadmap. But like, I want that for all trans people. And that's something I want to see part of care. And it's like, I don't know how to like raise the standards other than just by talking about it and just like helping people figure it out. It doesn't mean everyone needs to choose that, but they should have an opportunity to choose that, or at least like in a therapeutic setting. And it's like, and then there's furthermore, like, I think there should be a waiting period of like figuring out yourself when it comes to like living as the opposite sex. Yeah. Like you got to rule out those things, because what if you are just, because what I've learned by listening to the detransitioners is that there's a lot of them that had same-sex attraction and their therapist affirmed them too quickly. And they went down the road of transition only to regret that later and speak out against it. And I'm like, I get it. It was wrong for you. And there's a lot of people. And I'm still of the opinion where, as long as I'm alive, there's a potential that I'll detransition. But I can confidently say that I would not regret my transition whatsoever, because it got me through things that I could not otherwise get through.
100%.
And that's the defining characteristic. And it's like, that's the essence that we need to be working with people to help them understand. And so
there's no way to approach life that's not on honest terms. Like you just can't put a value on that. So
exactly.
No, I fully agree with that. So can I admit something to y'all about my K-hole that I've never told anyone else?
Please, breaking news.
This is super politically incorrect. Okay.
Oh.
So I have had exactly 2 girlfriends. Okay. It was one when I was like 14, from 14 to 19. That was just, it really was like I was lonely. And then I had a girl that I dated for a few months right before I came out, who was basically a dude. But I have always, through my whole life, I've thought that I had some bisexuality, like some of that. And one of the things that really fundamentally changed for me after doing ketamine is any attraction to women at all. I feel like I really understood where that was coming from, which was trauma. And it is just gone. Like I feel nothing whatsoever. And I'm like, did this change my brain on this? Was I just confused about what I was feeling this whole time? It was like, y'all know that feeling like where you're like, oh, you're so pretty, I want to be like you, right? Like, is that what I thought that was? Because it really made me like super straight in a way. And I'm Googling it. I'm like, if anyone else had this experience, and
that's so fascinating.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Wow. No, yeah. I mean, I think there's something to that, in the sense that like trauma can really warp your brain, and it can like radically change your personality or like your sexuality. And I just think that we like build up these sort of like narratives about ourselves that as soon as they get stripped down, it's much easier to like prioritize what's important. And I think that's probably what happened with you, is like I don't know exactly the mechanism for how, but like you just saw it for what it was, this like outgrowth, this narrative of trauma, and we're able to let it go. That's so powerful, because I know that I'm certainly like haunted by my own traumas and narratives, and letting go is hard. So it's
y'all should all come to
to
Massachusetts. We'll go to the ketamine clinic today. We'll make a whole weekend of it.
I would totally do that. Absolutely.
It's really good. It's really good.
Oh my gosh.
It's the best $500 show ever spent. Ketamine's on K-hole's on free.
Thanks, Rihanna.
We'll have a good time. It's great. Like you lay back in a chair, they inject it into you, you just like go into this, and you're like, and like you feel yourself go into it. oh my God, it's great. And then you wake up and you're just like processing all the stuff that you were thinking about for the rest of your day. And you can see all the hardest parts of yourself, like from outside of yourself, like it's a third person. So then when the ketamine wears off, it doesn't like have any impact. It's really beautiful.
That sounds powerful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Was that
Yeah,
another share?
I-
Was
I
that
have like
another
so much
share?
to share about like drugs and psychedelic experiences as well. Because I've also, I mean, I've mostly experimented with psilocybin, and it's
Oh,
quite an experience as well. I
how
really
is that
do
different?
think,
How is it different?
I mean, frankly, it sounds quite different. But again, like, I don't know if my psilocybin experience is just like quite unusual. I found it to be electrifying. Like, I felt like I had climbed to the top of Mount Olympus and like stolen Zeus's thunderbolt. And I was like, I could rain it down on people. I felt like I had like, you know, descended to like the depths of like bacchanalian wilds, and I had slain a tiger and stolen its heart. Like, my experience of psychedelics, you know, mushrooms, is just, it's very like raw and wild. And I feel
Oh
like
my goodness.
the conscious barrier that keeps me, you know, within like human customs and like, you know, sort of like norms had been dissolved. And I was able to like feel really directly the rawness of nature around me.
Oh my gosh.
So certainly like intense. It made me feel kind of like wild and powerful. So yeah, very interesting. But definitely like a bit
That does
different.
not sound like a K-hole at all.
Yeah. But it makes me want to try, I don't know, ketamine, because I would love a more like okay, psychedelics very fun. I would love to strip down to like, you know, remove the kind of barriers and be able to evaluate myself objectively, because I feel like that would be like a very growth oriented thing. I feel like I would
It's
learn a
kind of
lot.
scary. It is
Yeah,
really scary.
absolutely.
It's really scary.
All good things are a little scary, I think.
Another
True.
realization
Little
I came to is like, and it's, you get words and feelings that are like really meaningful to you. And it's like realizing that at my core, I am a weapon, like to do stuff. And I think that's actually really true.
Empowering.
Yeah.
That is so fascinating. Yeah, I can say alcohol does nothing like that.
Yeah, I don't drink.
That was like that's my like, I don't know, wild excursions have all been drinking. So, and it
You
was
can get
mostly
pretty
to
wild with
escape.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Alcohol's
you
a terrible
can.
drug.
You can't. No, I completely second that. No, that's why I'm like a little jealous of this whole ketamine thing. But
do you have any like faith-based objections to doing ketamine or something like that?
well, I mean,
it's not like
yeah,
a street drug. It was like in a clinical setting, a doctor prescribed it, you know?
Yeah, I don't know the legality, but I mean I wouldn't do it just on the basis of that probably. Yeah, to be
Well, it's
fair.
legal
I mean,
in Massachusetts. Yeah.
it is. Okay.
Oh
Yeah,
God, you don't think I'm doing back alley drugs, do you?
I
She's
have no
a
idea when it comes to
classy
ketamine.
No.
No, yeah, but like drinking was my whole thing, and that was really just to like deal with the gender dysphoria back when I was in college.
Oh yeah.
So,
Oh my God.
that was
I know that one.
Yeah, escape,
Yeah.
take your mind away, all that stuff.
Well, Kelly, I mean, I don't know if you want to talk about it, but like, I feel like we've also kind of had similar experiences trying weed before, you and I, and the ability for like that drug to be kind of an escape. But you stopped doing weed. I mean, how has that been? Have you felt a lot better because of that?
I mean, honestly, like I thought it was gonna like make me like less bipolar and like not as sad or like up and down, but I still feel like I'm exactly the same, except it's like I don't have my vices now. I wish I liked alcohol. I sometimes try to like use alcohol every time like I feel like doing weed, and it just like doesn't hit the same for me. I'm just not a fan. I've never been like an alcohol person. I haven't gone back to weed though. Like ever since I don't even know how long it's been, but when I said I quit, like I haven't touched it like
Oh, that's
since. But I had like
impressive.
I had a real problem with weed for like since I was like 19. I got into it when I was like in college with an ex,
Mhm.
and it was like ever since then I was just like obsessed with it, like to the point where I was getting high like literally all the time. It would be like I would wake up, do an edible, the 12 o'clock, 2 o'clock hits, do another edible, and I wouldn't be like doing like, oh, like 10 milligrams. Like I literally would have like a 1000 milligram thing of like RSO, and I would do like 300 of it every session,
Whoa.
and I would just be like
Wow.
high out of my fucking mind like 24/7. And I kind of thought that's why I was like so crazy on Twitter and so like bipolar with my takes, but clearly like I still fucking am this way sober. So I don't know, but I guess I'm glad I'm off of it because it's probably not healthy, but
Hmm.
I don't
Well, I
really feel
also,
like my mental state has changed that much.
I mean, maybe it's worse in some ways, right? Like, because I feel
Right.
like if you are on weed or any kind of drug, that might let you like engage in certain behaviors and like distance yourself from it. And without that, like you're still going to engage in the same behaviors, but now you might be like all the more kind of aware of them. And that can be like really scary and hard to deal with. I don't know if that's your situation, but I definitely know lots of people who have done various drugs and they realize like as soon as they get sober, like, oh my God, now there's so much stuff that like if I want to feel better, I have to like address in my life.
That's right.
And that's
That's
like
Like they've
exactly
been
it.
pushing it off and now they're having to
Yeah.
face it. Yeah,
100% it.
totally.
You know, it's take it from a gal that really went to rehab in an extreme way. But you know, the thing is, I mean, first of all, the unpopular opinion, weed is a terrible drug. I do not like this drug, and it concerns me how many sisters I know that deal with their problems by just smoking weed nonstop. I think it kills your career drive. And it's like this inch inside of yourself is so precious. It's this part of you that is so beautiful and raw. And I think weed just really diminishes that. I mean, it changes your brain over time. So, but what I learned going to rehab is that when you're trying to escape from something with substances, and then that substance isn't there, you've got a hole inside of yourself. And you've got to fill it with something. You know, or you're going to relapse. So I don't know.
Yeah.
It sounds like Kelly. I mean, first of all, it takes time after you stop using a lot for your brain to really clear and for you to have clarity. You know, with my drinking and drug problem, it probably took me a year, really two, to get really back up to where I could think clearly all the time. But I mean, you've got to address like what caused you to do that in the first place. I mean, for me, it was very simple. I wanted to be a girl, and then I transitioned, and I felt no need to ever do drugs again. But I don't know. Sounds like there's something deeper there.
I don't know if mine really had anything to do with my transition because I just remember like I went to college and I got like into my first relationship, and that was like a high for me because I never felt like I had like a guy that I was actually attracted to like be interested in me. And then when he left, I kind of just started doing it all the time because that's what we did together. And I don't know. And then TikTok happened and I just kept doing it. And I don't know. It's just, I don't know if it was ever really about my transition. I think and I don't even know if it was really about that relationship after a while. I think I just really liked getting high. I just liked feeling something. And it's funny you say it was a career killer for a lot of people or a motivation killer. Cause a lot of the time, like, I'm like, damn, I feel like I made much better content when I was high all the time. Like, I feel like I was funnier. I feel like I didn't give a fuck as much. I felt like I don't know. Now I just feel like my creative part of my brain is kind of like dead.
Really?
Interesting.
Wow. Huh.
Yeah.
It's
I know,
felt
is that
like
bad? Sorry.
no, it's. I feel like you are. I don't know. I feel like you're in a period right now where you're trying to discover yourself. And I mean, the friend I want to be to you is to help you do that because I care about you. So, however we can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. care about you guys too.
What do you do for fun?
Yeah.
I don't know. I would get high before, and I don't know. For the last like 4 months, I don't really feel like I've been doing any or having a lot of fun.
You got to find
No.
things.
Books, video games, cats.
Every time I try to get into video games, I feel like I can just never get into it. I've tried like every type of game imaginable. And I did kind of like Life is Strange. Zach got me to play that new Life is Strange game. And I was like, wow, this is the first time I'm like actually having fun playing a video game. But I don't know. I like music and movies, but I mean, there's only so much. I don't know. I don't really feel like that's like a real hobby. So I don't know.
The other thing ketamine did is it completely took away the enjoyment I felt from playing video games. I barely played that ever since.
Wow.
So
I have like a blocker on my computer. I use cold turkey, which lets me like block certain things, my access. And I have it set so like all programs that come out of the Steam folder are limited to like an hour total of time that I can spend on them. And the maximum amount of time that I can spend playing Hearthstone is 30 minutes a day, because this is so embarrassing. I've spent an insane amount of time playing Hearthstone, to the point where like I look back on that time and I'm like, I could have learned like 3 languages in the time that I spent playing Hearthstone, and I've like done nothing in this game. And so video games have been like my biggest vice.
They were for a long time.
So much
Yeah.
money. Yeah.
Mm.
But okay, Brianna, you have like this very ambitious impulse in you. And
Yeah, definitely.
I have that too. But I think what I realized is that I was using video games to kind of as a surrogate activity for actual success. And I could like play a video game and I could win in that video game. And that felt really good. But it was kind of illusory. And, you know, for me, it was like a way of masturbating that urge for success and competition and domination and like, you know, succeeding. But it didn't get me anywhere. And so I'm learning to like actually pursue real sources of success that aren't whatever.
I mean, this is why we've got a big media hit coming up together. And I take a lot of pride from getting younger women and kind of opening up doors for them. You know, Kelly, you were talking about how you want to have children. I just got to be real with you. The older you get as a trans woman, the more this hurts. It kills me sometimes to, you know, see moms dropping their kids off in the school that's right around the corner from me. And I can't do it. It hurts. And there's no filling that, right? So one of the things I really try to do is to help younger women in their career. So like Kelly, we did a podcast yesterday. We had a really good time. I was really proud to open that door and kind of teach you the media game there, Taff, when we do that. I really delight in doing that. Yeah, Sky, we did something with Buck Angel the other day.
Yeah, that was fun.
So I don't know. I guess if you've got that ambitious impulse in you, something I am extremely good at is networking and back channeling. I know literally everyone, and I'm happy to help in any way I can as your friend.
Well, on that point, I mean, we had this previous discussion where I was like, you know, I kind of want to get into like tech and like, but I just feel really like weird, like networking and kind of like schmoozing in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a conversation with one of my friends who like, she's very successful in her career in tech. And she's like my age, she's a trans woman. And she like just networked so well to get to that position. And she gave me the advice. She said, like, you should just be really ambitious and like put yourself out there. Yeah. And I thought about it and I thought like, you know, I don't feel comfortable networking with like tech stuff, but when it comes to politics, like I think I have something real to offer in that world. And I feel very comfortable talking to people about politics, and the idea of like, you know, going on this Reason interview with you or like, you know, any other media engagements or just like, you know, personal networking with people, that really resonates with me. And that feels to me like I feel so much energy and desire to do that, because it's like networking that is actually in a direction that I want. And so I think I just realized that, like, oh, I thought that like maybe I wanted to go in one direction, maybe because like my father's a programmer, and like as a kid, I always thought that would be like my direction in life. But now I'm like, wait, actually, when I'm honest with myself about what I want, I actually am okay with talking to people. And it took being, real with myself about that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think all of us have, like, speaking of politics, Taff, I really think all of us have a role to play. Like right now, even as we were recording the show tonight, Washington Post put out an op-ed by their entire op-ed board calling for a national discussion about trans women in women's sports.
Wow.
As we were recording, Trump put out something basically saying again he's going to end all childhood transition. So we're living in a moment where, and I don't want to be messianic here, but there is going to be a very deep thirst for moderate public figures on the trans issue.
Yes.
The comments from me on Piers Morgan the other day were almost universally positive.
Yes, I saw that.
It was like, I've never seen anyone say anything positive. Like, I've never seen a trans woman I could relate to before on this. So
yeah. Amazing.
Yes, but people want to hear like your opinions on these things, and that is so gratifying. Yeah.
So I got Pierce to say on the air that he unequivocally stands with trans women and wants us to have dignity and equality, just like everyone else, if we'll compromise on a few things, which is a huge win. So, I mean, Taff, I sit there, and the way. Oh, this is really getting meta with career stuff. But there are so many people out there that have a childlike need for attention. And that is why they do what they do in politics. It's all about them. And it is stunning to me that people accuse me of like being self-involved or whatever, because I think I have the opposite problem, that I have a mission that I will think about, and I will just entirely damage myself, like getting to that mission, as evidenced by this trans stuff right now. I think there is a calling right now to reshift the conversation, and I think it's one we can win. But I need people like you to step up and to help me in that public work, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that makes perfect
pressure.
sense. Okay, of course, yeah. I just got to be at the center of the zeitgeist, take on this messianic role. No, no, I feel very similar.
Tosh is the prophet.
I've come down from the mountains.
No, but it's true though, Taff. Like, it's so true. You have a flow to your dialogue, and it's so lovely. Like, I love listening to you talk, and it's like, I'm like, I need to. Yeah, I'm like, oh, let me take tips, and like. It was so funny when we were talking just like before this week's, pod, we were planning out, and it was before you joined, and Kelly was like, we were just chatting, and I'm like, Taff gave me this eye-opening analogy that's going to change my life on this. And it was just throwing the object in the air and catching it. Yep. And I was like, I could like relay it perfectly because you resonated so well with me. Yeah. And I was like, I loved that. I was just like, it takes one to know one. And I'm like, I hope I can be more like Taff. Like,
it made me so good when you were like, I felt like you really got it. And I felt like I was speaking, and I felt just understood by you in that moment. So I felt so good about that. And that is an experience that I've had over and over talking to you three, where like I've tried so many times to talk to like other people into the trans community about things, and just been like shut down over and over. And I don't get that with you guys. We're like, even if we disagree on something, there's like a desire to listen and, to lay it all out there. And that has been so valuable in just making me feel less crazy, and like maybe I really do have something valuable to share with the world.
Of course you do.
You totally do. We all do. Yeah.
And you do too, Kelly.
Yes.
Yes, Kelly. Yes, you too.
Yes, you smile. You have something to value.
Yeah, we all do for sure.
Yeah.
Kelly,
Oh.
I'm thinking about just jumping on a plane tomorrow and flying to a random city. You should do something fun too.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I have all the free time in the world, so I'll go to wherever city you want me to. It's not like I have plans.
Oh. We really do need to like all hang out though and do like
We
an in real life
do.
session. Like I just
do.
feel like it would be a hit.
It would be so much fun.
Yeah.
Come to the Casa de Woo. It's amazing.
I love to.
A trip northeast, I can do that.
Maybe not right now. It's a little cold, a little miserable.
True, yeah.
Yeah.
It is winter.
Y'all want to wrap this up? I don't think we'll talk about Josh today.
Yeah.
We didn't even talk about hair boobs or anything, but
yeah,
I mean, our conversation was so much more natural and real. Than,
it was
good.
Even if it got a little solemn, but that's okay.
Sometimes it's like that.
I think trans girls are going
Authenticity.
to listen to this and they're going to just cry the whole time. So,
Yeah. I guess so. Yeah, it is true though. I do love the energy of just being so vulnerable here. Like I feel that comfort because I don't feel like I'm being judged with what I share or that I have to follow an ideological script.
Yeah.
Which like that was predominantly my experience for like when I first transitioned and I was like, I'm entering this new identity and I was like so happy figuring myself out, but I found myself afraid to like say the wrong thing. And I don't feel that way with you all.
No.
And I want to ride that out and just like harness that energy and I don't know, be the best version of myself here with all of you all. And I'm just so excited.
I mean, Sky, let's be honest. A lot of trans Twitter would completely shut you down for being Christian and having some conservative tendencies. That's just like it is. Unless you're the most fringe leftist, you don't have a seat at the table, which is the whole problem.
Oh, yeah. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. Like, I mean, when you start going down into it and I start talking about autosexuality or any of those other things, it's like, yeah, I'm going to get so much hate. Like, I mean, I'm ready for it though. I'd rather go to the direction Taff said and be honest and truthful and really help people figure out themselves, regardless of how that looks. And it's just like, I have my beliefs and I'm not afraid of anymore. Plus I'm getting older and like, I thought it was kind of like, no, not gonna lie, Tap, when you were talking about like, I think you mentioned wrinkles and I'm like, what wrinkles? Like, I can't see anything. You look so perfect.
Come on.
Yeah, no,
So why are you using retinol?
I've mastered the lighting care, I think so. I just use retinol for like good skincare. I mean, so retinol can promote like collagen production and skin renewal. It's really nice for making your skin just look plumper and smoother. It can reduce fine lines and wrinkles as well. So I do recommend it.
I'll tell you about the 40-year-old version of that sometime.
You've got the real stuff.
Real hardcore stuff.
Yeah. Oh, I respect that. I'll have to get tips from you.
Hey, we're all heading in that direction.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah.
You know what? My injectionist, she's 10 years older than me and she looks gorgeous. So I'm in good
That's a good
hands.
sign. That's a good
All right.
sign.
Yeah. Well, my goal is that I don't care too much. That's my goal. I don't care if I look like a wrinkly grandma. I just want to have people to love and that love me. And that's enough for me.
Okay, Sky, that's so sweet. It's so naive. And
I
have to
know,
say,
yeah.
I tuned out all this stuff for way too long in my career. And it's the reason there are all these terrible pictures of me because I was just like, look, I look fine enough to pass. And I would just put on foundation and I didn't stress this stuff. And I had so much less power back then. So if you want a media career, I disagree. You got to take this stuff seriously.
Well, you got to remember, I'm not in it for money. I'm in it for the mission.
The money comes from doing good work. The money comes from doing good work. I mean, no one pays you to go do that stuff. Oh, what was that?
I said, so you're saying we need FFS?
No, shut up.
She's like, yeah, bigger
This is your brain words. It should be you instead of
fair for
RFK.
Bree because Bree's in the media, so the looks are directly related to like the success of exposure to some extent. That's what you're getting at,
It's
right?
not just that. My career is fundraising and the ability to network with powerful people helps if you don't look wrinkly. I mean, it's just true. So
That's
I
fair.
don't know.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
I mean, there's careers in the spotlight for a reason. And there's a reason when you look at the TV anchors and, the women are all like polished and everything. It's for a reason. It's exactly what you just described.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it's kind of like sexism too. Like, men can get away with looking like old and gross, but like, unfortunately with women, like, there's just an expectation, which sucks, but like,
it just makes them hotter. Like, I mean, I hate to say it, but I tell this to Zach all the time. It's like, I feel like you're just getting hotter as you get older, and I'm just getting more ugly, and that's just how it is for women.
Kelly. I mean, this is why I think TERFs are so miserable. I genuinely think this, because it is so hard being a woman the older you get, because there's a lot of bullshit, right? I mean, especially if you can have children, like your body starts breaking down in some scary ways. So I don't know. I think like all that frustration over structural sexism just ends up bursting out, and we end up being the targets.
I used to think that. But I honestly think there's a lot of people coming to the TERF position from, I don't want to say like not out of like insecurities, more out of the statement of like they're worried about the infringement. I mean, that's the whole thing about the political issue of Donald Trump getting elected on trans like wokeism. Like, it's bringing in people that would otherwise be moderate and not really care, see like a man win in women's sports, and then become like, I don't know, I want to say TERF, but like they're going to move in that direction because they're going to see the legitimacy of biological sex over, extending courtesy and grace towards people that actually pass or like put in effort for the transition. And so it's like, I used to think a lot more like that, Brie, until recently. And it's been like, that's why I'm like, we got to like get out there.
Well, I delineate the normal people that have questions about this stuff that are fine with us living our lives, and the gender critical nut jobs.
The definition of
Kelly, you know what I'm talking about? These ultras, like you posted this the other day. It was a brilliant thing you said. Where it's like, trans woman breathes, like gender critical person. Do you understand that's a biological male breath? That's the kind of people I'm talking about. It's not
that was hilarious
to be
too.
Obsessed with us like this.
And half the comments were like, well, they're right. And I'm like, of course that's what you people would fucking say.
They're such freaks. Oh,
let them say it though. Like, I mean, my view is like, well, I don't need to say my view. Yeah, whatever.
Sky, actually, you have how many Twitter followers? How many Twitter followers do you have?
Under 1,000.
Okay, I think we have slightly different experiences.
You're blessed. You're blessed.
Yes, you're blessed.
You don't want them.
You don't know.
You don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
the curse.
Yeah, it's true. No, I don't really. It's like, it's out of obligation. It's the fact that I'm like, I got to be online to help like trans people have a better image, but I don't even know how effective it is. I'd rather just leave it up to Brie and then let people watch it on video platforms, because it's like, that's where I think actual nuance and discussion happens. Otherwise, like, X is just for people that want to vent. That's how it feels. Like,
I'll be honest, I want more X followers. I'm on that grind set.
I'll retweet you.
That's fair.
Thank you.
I'll help you.
Yeah.
We'll go with the
All right. So, and now we're excited to welcome our special guest to the show.